but we were elected to represent 750,000 Americans each. We are elected under the Constitution of the United States, and we are supposed to show up in Congress.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize my friend from Texas, Mr. Roy, for 4 minutes.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 4 minutes.
I thank my friend from Virginia. I would note for the American people that this week the Republican majority is bringing before the body two important measures. One, to ensure the integrity of our elections, to ensure that only American citizens can vote in American elections, a fairly common sense principle which enjoys 80% plus approval among the American people, that would straightforward ensure that non-citizens may not vote in our elections. It's that simple. The second measure we're bringing forward is a piece of legislation that we're actively debating right now in a committee that I'm co-chairing, the Judiciary Committee, and I will go back to that committee forthwith, in which we are having witnesses before the Judiciary Committee discussing the extent to which we have judges that are taking action unilaterally, what are called temporary restraining orders or injunctions, to thwart the efforts of the administration's actions in direct result of the election in November, to carry out the agenda for which the president was elected. Now, this is a bipartisan problem that has been something where you have judges that will act unilaterally as a single district judge, and the question is, what do we do about it? We've had Democrats that have said we should change it. We have Republicans that said we should change it. Well, we're trying to change it. We're trying to say that a judge can take action on the parties before them, but nothing more, and then have that go up through another procedure, and then allow the of an appellate panel or a three-judge panel or the Supreme Court fast tracks, they decide there should be an injunction, there can be. So let me put this in plain speak for the American people. We're putting measures on the floor to ensure that only American citizens vote in American elections, and to ensure that judges don't make the policy for America, that the elected leaders do, whether it's the executive branch president or the members of Congress, and that there would be a process to ensure that the Constitution, the laws of the land are being protected. That's what this majority body is putting forward. And we can listen all day long about what we're hearing today regarding proxy voting. The American people that I know and represent and talk to expect us to show up. Right now across this country, Americans are showing up to work. They're going in and they're doing their plumbing work. They're electricians showing up to work. They're builders. They're standing out in the sun. They're picking crops. They're working hard. They don't get to take a pass. They don't get to not show up. But we were elected to represent 750,000 Americans each. We are elected under the Constitution of the United States, and we are supposed to show up in Congress. It's what it means. We're supposed to be here. It's why the institution exists. It's why this floor exists. And there have been countless reasons why there would be cause for us to want to allow members to have some sort of flexibility. People who are sick, our friend Steve Scalise, who was shot. He was shot, and he didn't ask for some special dispensation. He fought cancer, is still fighting cancer, and as the majority leader is standing here on this floor every day doing the job. New dads. I'm a dad. My daughter, my son, they asked me to show up to things. I missed my son's 4-H presentation last week. I missed my daughter's 4-H this last week. I've missed countless family engagements. My wife carries the burden of making sure our family can function back home in Texas. But you know what? I signed up for the job. That's what I did. I signed up for the job. And when you let this happen, it will not just happen for mothers or fathers. It will be for everybody. And then we'll have proxy voting where you will have pressures brought to bear that will fundamentally change this institution. No, we should not allow this to occur. No, we shouldn't have discharge petition brought to the floor, which does violence to the Constitution, does violence to the body, and does it with no ability to amend it, because the way the rule was drafted, there would be no amendments, no ability to debate it. We should stand.
I yield the gentleman an additional 30 seconds.
I appreciate my friend from Virginia. What we are doing on the floor today is right and proper under our rules. It is to say that we should have a full-throated debate on something that would fundamentally change the people's house. Nothing more, nothing less. And we should do that. This is something that's been debatable. It was debated by the founders. It was debated by them and rejected. It was debated and rejected in the Articles of Confederation. It was debated and rejected in the Constitution. And now we are staring at the result of having set aside tradition and precedent by embracing proxy voting during COVID. Now it's being trying to be expanded beyond that. We should not do that. And with that, I will yield back.
Gentleman for Virginia Reserve.
What you just witnessed, Chip Roy opens by bragging that House Republicans are laser-focused on protecting elections and reining in judges. But listen closely. Instead of addressing real issues facing families, childcare costs, maternal health, or paid leave, he pivots to fear-based talking points about non-citizens voting, even though that is already illegal nationwide. He presents it as if Congress has ignored this for decades, when in reality, it's a manufactured crisis meant to distract from the fact that Republicans have stalled real election security reforms like paper ballot standards and full funding for local election infrastructure. Then, Roy shifts to criticizing judges for blocking extreme or unconstitutional policies. He paints courts as if they're rogue activists harming democracy. But the judiciary's role is literally to check executive overreach. When courts stop an administration from violating rights or bypassing the law, that isn't thwarting elections. It's what separation of powers is designed to do. But the real pivot happens when he attacks proxy voting. Roy tries to argue that members of Congress must physically show up because electricians, farmers, and builders show up. What he ignores is the obvious. Plumbers don't have to give birth. Electricians aren't recovering from C-sections on the House floor. Farmers don't carry babies to term while serving 12-hour voting days, and unlike his comparison, the House already allows remote committee participation, parental leave, and proxy voting during emergencies. This isn't a break from tradition, it's recognizing reality. Every modern democracy in the world allows parental accommodations for legislators. The U.S. House is one of the least family-friendly legislative bodies in the developed world. Roy talks about missing his kids' school events. That's a personal experience, yes, but it's not public policy. The solution isn't to force every member, including new mothers recovering from childbirth, to suffer in the same way. The solution is to modernize the institution so parents can serve without being penalized for having a family. He warns that if proxy voting is allowed for new moms, it will expand to everybody. This slippery slope argument ignores the obvious. Congress can write clear rules. Temporary proxy voting tied to medical recovery or childbirth is not the same as unlimited proxy voting for convenience. Every organization in America, from Fortune 500 companies to local school boards, allows structured medical and parental accommodations. Congress can too. Then comes the dramatic line. Roy says supporting new moms is violence to the Constitution. This is where his argument becomes indefensible. The Constitution does not mandate in-person voting. The founders debated proxy voting in the 1700s, before the existence of modern medicine, digital verification, or even reliable transportation. At that time, a member traveling on horseback for 2 weeks was their biggest concern, not advancing maternal health or ensuring democratic participation. Today, we have the ability to keep legislative integrity intact while respecting the realities of childbirth and medical recovery. A vote cast by a member recovering from labor is not unconstitutional. It is not violent. What is violent is the ongoing maternal mortality crisis in America, especially for Black women, that Republicans refuse to address. What is violent is forcing a new mother to travel across the country against medical advice just to cast a vote. What is harmful to democracy is telling half the country's population, women, that Congress will value their constitutional role as representatives less the moment they decide to have a child. Roy frames this as protecting tradition. But tradition isn't a justification for excluding people. Congress once excluded women entirely. Tradition demanded segregation. Tradition demanded that only landowners could vote. Tradition is not inherently noble. It evolves as society grows. Proxy voting for new moms is not radical. It is basic equity. It is a recognition that Congress should be accessible to Americans from every walk of life, not just those whose lives allow them to sacrifice their health or their families. The people's house should reflect the people. Mothers are the backbone of this country, and supporting them strengthens democracy. Rejecting them weakens it. So when Chip Roy says Proxy voting for new mothers is violence to the Constitution, understand what he's really saying. He wants to preserve a system designed for a Congress that does not include women, working parents, or anyone whose life involves caregiving. The Constitution didn't prohibit modernization. Congress did. And it's time that changed.